How do you know when you're on the verge of burnout and what's causing it? Today we're diving into the cause of workplace burnout and the signs and symptoms to watch out for. Hi and welcome to Creating Cadence, a podcast for life and work in motion. I'm your host Mich Bondesio, a writer, coach, consultant and the founder of growthsessions.co. This is episode 32 and the second episode of season 6, recorded in June 2022. This season, I'm looking specifically at burnout because it plays an important role in why intentional productivity is so crucial for our well-being. Intentional productivity was the theme of season 5, so give it a listen if you haven't already. In the first episode of this season, episode 31, I defined what burnout actually means and shared a bit about my own experience with epic burnout. In this episode, I'll be looking at stress in general and the stressors within our bodies that influence burnout. I also cover what to look out for in terms of symptoms of burnout, some of which may surprise you. We'll also dive into specific work-related causes of burnout. You can find the resources I reference in the transcript for this episode, but if you're ready, let's dive in. So let's start with the concept of stressors and how they affect our physiology to cause symptoms related to burnout, so that you're better equipped to recognize it when it looms. Stressors activate the stress response in our body. They can be physical or emotional. They can be external or internal stressors. External stressors can be related to things such as work, money, family, culture, etc. And internal stressors can be things like self-criticism, poor body image, crisis of identity, traumatic memories, and so forth. Our brain and body perceive stresses as potential threats, and too much stress or recurring chronic stress puts strain on our body and mind. They have to overwork to deal with the stresses, which creates fatigue and leads to burnout. Next up, let's consider the signs and symptoms that indicate someone might be reaching a state of burnout. Some of these symptoms may already be familiar to you, but some may be surprising too. If you or someone you know is experiencing or displaying several of the following signs, then it's likely that burnout is a big risk factor. Depression, anxiety, insomnia, adrenal fatigue, gut issues, hormonal imbalances, and food sensitivities. Then there are obvious signs such as low energy, where you're tired all the time. You may have a lack of motivation, which leaves you feeling listless and languishing. You could have low morale with a strong negativity bias. You could be overreactive in terms of your emotional responses and behavior, such as showing signs of cynicism, hostility, anger, and irritability. You could have recurring dreams or nightmares. You could feel moments of tearfulness regularly. You could be experiencing brain fog and feeling unproductive. There could be continuous elements of procrastination that are impacting on your ability to do work. You could feel lots of moments of indecision. Your relationships could be breaking down. You may feel less sociable, which means you get insular and don't want to be around people when this is not how you might typically behave. Perhaps you're not answering emails or responding to texts like you should. And you may be living and working in a state of clutter and disrepair, where perhaps you're not watering the plants or cleaning up your house or your workspace. Although the constraints of the pandemic are now subsiding, burnout is still on the rise. It's happening across industries and across countries, whether you work from home, in a hospital, a restaurant, a manufacturing plant, or in an office. To put this into stark perspective, let's look at some statistics. As I work in digital fields, as do most of my clients and audience, I'm focusing primarily on knowledge worker arenas for this data, and these resources will be linked to in the transcript for this episode. First, as part of Yobo's Burnout Index 2022, they interviewed over 30,000 tech workers for their recent State of Burnout in Tech report. What they found was startling. 2 in 5 people working in tech are at higher risk of burnout, and this is more prevalent in women than men. 62% feel physically and emotionally drained, and 42% of tech professionals who feel they're at risk of burnout are considering leaving their jobs. This is contributing to that great resignation that we're experiencing of late. According to ConvertKit's latest research in their State of the Creator Economy report for 2022, 61% of the over 2,000 content entrepreneurs that they surveyed reported that they had experienced burnout in 2021. And those are just stats for people in knowledge worker fields. Recent research in the UK indicates that 46% of people working across industries are at risk of burnout from their job, and this risk profile increases for those of us working from home. I've already covered the digital aspects of working online at home during the pandemic in several of these episodes, but let's look at what contributes to causing burnout from a workplace perspective in general. A recent article in Silicon Republic by Jenny Darmody identifies a combination of skills gaps, increased pressure during the pandemic, and the intensity of workloads as the primary reason for increasing burnout in tech workers. I'm sure those reasons can be applied in other sectors too. Across knowledge worker industries, the hustle culture is also causing people to become insecure overachievers who feel the pressure to perform and then experience self-doubt over their abilities. This takes a lot of energy, putting pressure on their cognitive load and depleting their resilience. Aside from the pandemic and the work habits we've developed because of it, general work circumstances that contribute to burnout include the following. 1. An unsustainable workload. 2. A lack of autonomy or control over how we work or control over the situation that we're in. 3. Self-doubt and a loss of self-efficacy. 4. A lack of connection with our work community. 5. Insufficient recognition or reward for our perceived value. 6. A sense of depersonalization, where we're not recognized as an individual and may feel like we're merely a number. 7. Unfair discrimination or judgment against us. And 8. A disconnect between external circumstances and our internal values. This is where there is a lack of congruency between our internal and external worlds, which then causes stress. Not only is burnout damaging our health, well-being, and productivity, as well as our relationships with ourselves and others, it also has immense costs for businesses, healthcare systems, and economies. So we need to get serious about changing our approach to burnout in the workplace to get better at both handling it and combating it. And this is why the notion of intentional productivity is so important. Implementing mindful approaches to work can go a long way to helping us improve our well-being and creativity, as well as our focus and our performance. And incidentally, that's why I'm writing a book on the topic. In the next episode, I'll be looking at how burnout specifically affects entrepreneurs, and I'll consider some of the other important contributors to burnout that affect us outside of the workplace. I will also, in a later episode, be looking at ways that we can combat burnout and build our resilience to prevent it from happening in the future. To get more resources that help you create momentum, work with purpose, and live with intention, do sign up to the free fortnightly Cadence newsletter on the new creatingcadence.co website. And you're welcome to drop me a line with your comments or questions. Please write to hello@creatingcadence.co. So thanks for listening. Until next time, be brave in making change, be open to new things, and keep moving forwards, one step at a time. Bye for now.